Hello everyone, welcome back to Believer Science Academy, Bengaluru. This is daily news analysis session. In this session, as usual, we will be discussing some 5 to 6 important articles from various newspapers. So, the first article for the day is from the Hindu. It is an editorial which talks about bridge the milk divide for nutritionally secure India. Okay, here they talk about milk consumption disparities and how you should be bridging the milk gap so that you can address nutritional issues. It highlights inequitable milk consumption across socio-economic and regional groups in India. Wealthier households consume 3 to 4 times more milk per capita than the lower income groups, with the poorest 30% consuming just 18% of India's total milk. Okay, urban areas and regions like Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana have a higher consumption, whereas states like Odisha and West Bengal lag behind. So there is a regional disparity within the consumption. So what are the challenges in milk accessibility? Okay, why is there a regional differences? One is affordability is a key barrier, because as meeting recommended daily intake would require 70% of households to allocate a significant portion of their food budget to milk only. Okay, so milk is not cheap, because in Karnataka itself, for 1 liter of milk it is around 60 rupees. So the milk is very costly. So according to the data, 70% of the households would need a significant portion of their food basket money for the milk itself. Okay, then affluent urban households overconsume high fat dairy products, raising concerns of obesity and non-communicable diseases. Okay, so what does the policy recommend? Policy recommend for expanding milk provision programs. Okay, that is strengthening the schemes like Poshan Abhiyan, Integrated Child Development Scheme and take home rations. Work with the National Institute of Nutrition to integrate milk into 3 initiatives. Okay, and then boosting the financial incentives for milk accessibility in low income states as well. Okay, so we can make a provision that milk should also be provided in Poshan and ICDS. Okay, along with rice and other food materials. Then there should be awareness campaigns talking about nutritional significance of milk. This should target women and children through Anganwadi centers, self-help groups and doctors. States like Maharashtra and Bihar are already leading grassroots interventions to impress awareness. That can be followed by different states as well. Then promoting healthy consumption, that is encourage moderation in milk consumption to avoid overnutrition among the affluent. And finally, learning from the initiatives like United Kingdom's Challenge for Life sugar shops, which reduce the sugar and fat intake. Okay, challenge for sugar swaps. Okay, you can note it down and you can use it as an example in your answers whenever there is a question about healthy food intake or increasing the nutritional capacity of India. So in conclusion, ensuring equitable milk access while moderating overconsumption is crucial for nutrition security of India. This approach aligns with Verghese Kurian's vision. Who is Verghese Kurian? He is the father of India's Operation Flood. Operation Flood, or also called as White Revolution. Verghese Kurian's vision of healthier, well-nourished India, ensuring benefits of the White Revolution reach all the people. Okay, then second article, it is from the Press Information Bureau. It talks about Director General of Foreign Trade launches enhanced ECOO 2.0 system. Okay, we'll understand what is ECOO and its significance. The Directorate General of Foreign Trade has launched the Enhanced Certificate of Origin. ECOO is Enhanced Certificate of Origin 2.0 system, a major upgrade aimed at simplifying export certification and improving trade efficiency. Very important. Director General of Foreign Trade and ECOO 2.0. What is ECOO? ECOO is Enhanced Certification of Origin. Then, so what is ECOO 2.0 system? It is a digital platform launched by Directorate General of Foreign Trade to simplify and streamline the issuance of non-preferential certificates of origin. Okay, it is effective from January 1, 2025. Exports must electronically file certificates of origin applications through this platform. Okay, certificates of origin in the sense that certificate contains where the product you are trying to export into India originated from. Because what happens in international trade is certain trades or certain goods from a particular country can be taxed. Okay, when they are taxed from a particular country by another country, in order to escape the taxation, they will be sent to another country, and from there, without any refurbishment or without any value addition, they will be sent back to the country which has imposed the tax. For example, like this, there is USA and there is Canada and there is India. Okay, so India is importing many things from Canada and USA. Now, because of the various issues between India and Canada, Canada usually exports something else. Okay, now because of issues, bilateral relations between India and Canada over the Khalistan issue, now suppose consider India has put a ban or tax tariff on goods from Canada. Okay, goods from Canada. Now, in order to overcome this tariff, in order to overcome this ban, what the exporters do is they will take the goods to USA and they will send it from USA to India. Okay, so in order to just show that they originated from USA and the goods from USA are not bound by this tariff, just to escape the tariff, they will change the place of origin. Okay, so in order to avoid this kind of manipulation, the AE certificate of origin is required. It doesn't matter where, doesn't matter from which country you are exporting, the place of origin, meaning where the goods is produced, is very important. Okay, so this is simplification. Next, it aligns with ease of doing business initiative by improving trade facilitation, digital authentication and document processing. It is going to increase the ease of doing business. Key features of the ECOO 2.0 system are: exporters must submit non-preferential certificates of origin online, allows exporters to authorize multiple users under a single importer-exporter code. Aadhaar-based e-signing provides an alternative to digital signature tokens, enhancing security and ease of use. Then it offers a real-time access to ECOO services, free trade agreement details, trade events and notifications. Exporters can also request in lieu COO for rectifications on previously issued certificates of origins. Okay, then the system is going to handle 7,000 plus CCOs daily, integrating 125 issues agencies, 100 chambers of commerce and 650 issuing officers. So holistic approach has been implemented by DGFT. So what is the significance? Obviously, since it is digital, since it is a platform based, it is going to reduce manual paperwork and speeds up the export documentation. Since it is digitally signed COOs, it will prevent fraudulent certifications and ensure the traceability of the goods. It facilitates smoother re-exports, transshipments and intermediary trade, boosting India's position in global supply chains. And then faster approvals help exporters comply with the international trade agreements, enhancing competitiveness as well. And finally, it aligns with India's push for paperless trade or digitalization trade, reinforcing DGFT's trade facilitation efforts. A very small one but very important. You can use that in your economy answers. Then, third article, it is from the Indian Express as well as Down to Earth or newspaper. It is talking about why Greenland's crystal clear blue lakes have turned brown. Okay, you know Greenland, it is a territory of Denmark, but it is a largest island in the world, which is present at the northeastern section of Northern American continent. Okay, Greenland has like most of the Greenland is covered by ice only, so most of the like lakes there were crystal clean, but now they are turning brown. What is the reason behind this? So, a new study has revealed that over 7,500 lakes in western Greenland have turned brown, suffered water quality deterioration, and started emitting carbon due to extreme weather events in 2022. Okay, so what is Greenland and its lakes? Greenland is the world's largest island or island. It is covered by a massive ice sheet that holds nearly 8% of world's fresh water. Very important. It is also considered part of northern Arctic region. Okay. The island is home to thousands of glacier-fed lakes, meaning the lakes are fed by the glaciers, which are crystal clear blue due to their pristine water quality and low organic content. These lakes play a crucial role in providing drinking water, supporting biodiversity, and storing atmospheric carbon by acting as a natural carbon sinks. Now, what are the reasons behind turning into brown? One is extreme weather in 2022. Greenland saw a record-breaking heat waves and heavy rainfalls instead of the usual snowfall. Permafrost thawing. What is permafrost? Permafrost is the soil or it is the carbon which is covered under the soils of Arctic regions. The rising temperatures melted the permafrost, which released large amounts of organic carbon, iron, and other minerals into the lakes. Finally, atmospheric rivers. These long, narrow streams of water vapor in the sky caused intense precipitation, leading to large scale runoff of organic material and sediments into the lakes. Okay, and finally, the loss of light penetration. Because of increased sedimentation, turned the lakes murky brown, reducing the sunlight penetration and affecting the growth of phytoplankton, which play a key role in absorption of carbon dioxide. Okay, so from extreme weathers to increased permafrost thawing and increased rivers like rainfall, and finally loss of light penetration or extreme sedimentation, the lakes which are previously pristine or crystal blue are now turning into brown. Now, why is this study important? Obviously, the study found that the changes in the lakes occurred within months instead of centuries, signaling an unprecedented climate impact. Okay, so the centuries old crystal clear blue water lakes have turned brown within just a matter of months. Okay, so what we considered climate change has a century old impact or a century old, it is going to have impact in the near future, is happening right in front of our eyes only. Okay, then once natural carbon absorbers, the lakes are now releasing 350% more carbon dioxide, which is obviously accelerating global warming. The lakes which supply drinking water now contain higher level of organic pollutants affecting both humans and aquatic ecosystem. And studies suggest atmospheric rivers will become 50 to 290% more frequent by the end of the century, leading to widespread changes in the other freshwater ecosystem worldwide as well. Okay, finally, the study adds to the growing evidence that Earth's natural carbon sinks are failing, posing a major challenge to climate mitigation efforts. Very important. You can use these examples in your climate change or environment ecology related answers. Finally, now fourth article, it is organophosphate poisoning in Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, what is organophosphate and what is its poisoning? We will see in this article. A suspected case of organophosphate poisoning in Jammu and Kashmir has resulted in 17 deaths. Doctors believe pesticide exposure may be the cause. Now, so what are organophosphates? It is a group of chemical compounds used as a pesticides and insecticides in agriculture activities. They inhibit acetyl cholinesterase. Okay, it is ACH is acetyl cholinesterase. Okay, leading to excessive nerve stimulation. It is found in household pest control products and chemical warfare agents like sarin. Common OP or organophosphate pesticides include malathion, chlorpyrifos, and diazinon. Okay, so it is a significant issue here. So what are the effects of organophosphate poisoning? The acute symptoms are, it will result in excessive sweating, nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. It will also result in muscle twitching and breathing difficulty, seizure, coma in severe cases, and in the long term, the chronic effects are neurological disorders and can lead to memory loss and muscle weakness and reproductive toxicity. So how you are going to treat this? The treatment and management includes, first is decontamination, that is remove contaminated clothing, wash exposed skin thoroughly, use activated charcoal if the poison has been ingested already. So medical treatments are atropine to block the excess nerve stimulation, pralidoxim 2 pm to restore enzyme function during the toxin attacks. Because of the excessive nerve stimulation, the enzyme function reduces. So in order to restore the enzyme function, pralidoxim will be injected into the body. Oxygen therapy and ventilator support if needed, and I-Fluor or 4 fluids and anti-seizure medications for severe cases as well. So significance is, this indicates the dangers of pesticide exposure and the need for stronger safety regulations in agriculture and public health as well. Okay, organophosphate pollution or organophosphate poisoning in Jammu and Kashmir because of the pesticides and chemicals is the gist of the summary or gist of the article. Next, this is an editorial from the Hindu. It talks about broken promise in a warming world. Okay, so it is talking about United States and its climate agreements and the broken promises by the current Trump government. So the US withdrawal from the Paris Agreement weakens global efforts against anthropogenic global warming. Despite being world's richest country, contributing over one-fifth of cumulative carbon dioxide emissions, the US has failed to take leadership in climate action. Okay, so this is a very unfortunate event, you can say. Under the UNFCCC, developed nations, including the US, were expected to lead the emission reduction while providing financial and technological assistance to developing nations. In the Paris Climate Agreement, there was previously in Kyoto Protocol, the developed countries, because of their historical contribution to the carbon dioxide, were given a binding targets under Schedule 1, Schedule 2 and non-annexed countries. However, in the Paris Agreement, that binding targets are reduced and national determined contributions were introduced, whereas there is a agreement that the richer countries are going to provide $1 billion per year for climate change adaptation, etc., etc. But that has not been completely followed, and now with the withdrawal of USA, the UNFCCC framework is almost under shatters, you can say. Then US climate policy and its weak commitments. Historically, the US climate action has been inconsistent, with emissions rising between 1990 to 2005 before a slow decline. Bipartisan politics prevented binding commitments under the Kyoto Protocol and weakened reinforcement of the Paris Agreement, which I already explained to you. The US pledged only a 60 to 80% reduction in the emissions by 2050, significantly lower than the required global standards, because it is the largest emitter of carbon dioxide. One fifth of global emissions is by USA itself. So they need an increased percentage of reductions. Now, since USA has withdrawn, what will be its consequences? The Trump administration's decision to withdraw follows a trend of weak commitments and policy reversals between Democratic and Republican governments. Developing nations now face increased financial and climate burdens without corresponding commitments from the United States. Along with this, withdrawal of aid and assistance forces developing countries into premature decarbonization, exacerbating poverty and hunger. Okay, so now the decarbonization efforts and the burden falls on the developing and underdeveloped nations. Okay, the developed nations have already gotten the benefit out of greenhouse gas emissions. Now the benefit which they have accrued, but the burden are being put on the developing countries now. So that is unjust. So global reaction to market impact. The climate negotiators and experts reacted with concern and criticism, though global financial markets showed resilience, indicating low confidence in US climate leadership. And then the private sector's reluctance to drive climate action suggests that without a strong government policies, climate mitigation will suffer. This move highlights the climate denial culture in USA, influenced by political and corporate interests. The President of USA, that is Donald Trump, he himself believes that climate change is a hoax, which is created by leftists. But it is not so, but it is reality. But that is what he believes. And supporters of Trump also believe the same thing. So what are the challenges for developing nations? Developing countries require a balanced climate strategy that does not rely on a false hopes of increased US contributions. The demand of developing country nations to compensate for the US withdrawal is unfair given their low historical emissions and given their necessary requirement of emissions for the development as well. Mutual climate cooperation is necessary with or without US participation. So at present there is a need for global climate leadership, that is the failure of moral leadership in climate action raises concerns about the future negotiations. A just, equitable approach is needed, ensuring safety, sustainability, and adaptation for all the nations. The future of climate policy depends on collective global action, regardless of whether USA is involved or not. Okay, it is the time for other countries to come together and look into this in a different way. Okay. Finally, another article from the Hindu, Text and Context. It talks about how can the budget arrest the growth decline. If you are watching the videos from Believers Science Academy, there was topic of the discussion about is India going through economic slowdown. There we have provided certain reasons for why India is going through economic slowdown. Whether is it cyclical or whether is it structural. We have discussed everything. Now we have established that India is going under economic slowdown. This article tries to deal with how we can restrict the slowdown. Okay. Then India's economic slowdown. The Indian economy is experiencing slower than expected growth as revealed by recent GDP estimates. Despite increased capital expenditure, the slowdown persists, raising concerns about the effectiveness of government policies. Understanding past growth trends. The post-reform period is divided into three phases, that is 1993 to 2004, 2004 to 2011, and 11 to 23. So 4 to 11 saw a high economic growth alongside reduced absolute poverty due to increased government spendings on welfare programs, rights-based legislations, and social sector investment. 11 to 23 has been marked by a slowdown, reflecting a weaker private consumption and demand. So why was growth high during 2004 to 2011? One is mainly because of higher social sector spending such as Narega, right to food, and rural infrastructure boosted the employment and wages according to the article. Growth in rural consumption improved overall economic demand. That is, lower income groups had a higher consumption propensity, leading to a more equitable growth pattern as well. Then, what led to the slowdown post 2011? There was a shift in fiscal priorities towards capital expenditure rather than social sector spending, which weakened consumption demand. That is how it should be. You should be focusing more on capital expenditure than the revenue expenditure, but the revenue expenditure, such as social sector spending, is also going to weaken the consumer demand or consumption demand. Tax incentives for corporates failed to boost private investment significantly. The GST rollout and COVID-19 lockdowns further affected economic stability. Finally, the lessons from fiscal policy shifts. The data shows that an increase in public spending on social sector drives consumption-led growth. The corporate sector did not reinvest significantly despite tax cuts, highlighting the need for direct public investment. Okay, so what should the government do with respect to new budget? Obviously, it should roll back and spend more on the revenue expenditure in social sector to stimulate demand and employment, prioritize capital investment in labor intensive projects that directly impact the employment and consumption, reduce reliance on corporate tax cuts, instead focus on public led investment. Okay, finally, by learning from the past high growth phases, a well structured budget strategy can help reverse the slowdown and create sustainable economic recovery. That is nothing but from 2001 to 2011 or 4 to 11, 2011 to 21. Okay, there was a growth, there was a less growth. The growth was mainly because social sector spending or social sector spending was high, whereas here capital expenditure was high. Okay, so now they are saying is, if you want to increase the growth rate, what you should need is go back to social sector spending as well. Okay, and the development should be led by public led investment instead of corporate tax cuts. Okay, so just a simple article but very important from economy. So do note down important points which I already explained. So these are the important articles which I wanted to discuss with you. So this ends our discussion for the day. Jai Hind.